To tarot cards and crystals, all I had was a Bible, some holy oil, and 2 sticks that I made into a cross, and I used some sewing thread to fascinate them together to make my cross. That is my death unto enemies card, okay? But anywho, I wanted this one to be more focused on me. What I got up here to do was to do a lovely egg cleanse. And guess what else I'm going to be doing with this? Is putting my egg cleanse out under this eclipse. Okay? I've got my water here, and I'm going to get this going. And if you don't want to be bothered, then move. Okay? Because at this fucking point, I don't care. So anyways, I feel like I just gotten out of this part of my life where I used to become super irritated when people would try to spiritually bully me, or aka mimic me because they're upset that they don't have the types of spiritual connectivity that I do, and I am who the fuck I claim to be. Okay? I've just gotten out of being irritated about it to a point where, like, I used to use my spiritual abilities as a weapon and, like, read people to filth to the point where, like, you're gonna feel it in your soul. And not only that, because you decided to try and pick with me, I'm gonna keep doing it. You know what I'm saying? Look. Because I'm a bully by myself, baby. I don't play that shit. I've been highly spiritual all my life. Before I got into tarot cards and crystals, all I had was a Bible, some holy oil, and 2 sticks that I made into a cross. And I used some sewing thread to fascinate them together to make my cross, okay? And I had a journal, much like I got now, dream books and journals, okay? I always have dream books and journals. This is not nothing new. And I used to make my own flashcards with intuitive sayings, which were kind of like tarot cards for real. I didn't tell anyone anything. So when people would try to pick with me about who I am personality-wise, I knew why. And honestly, what you don't know can't hurt you, because what you do know can mutilate the fuck out of you. I recently just grew out of that shit, and I am, like, grown, okay? I just grew out of that, wanting to attack people. I mean, it wasn't really nothing to grow out of. It was just, for me, my focus. I don't give a fuck about them. They're not doing nothing to elevate my life. They're not doing nothing to elevate and benefit me in no motherfucking way. I don't give a fuck about you or what you fake spiritually do or whatever the fuck. Because, you know, you get enough people in your corner, you can be whoever you want to be. You know what I'm saying? Especially when you chase out a validation. So that's one thing here. Another thing I've just gotten out of that my husband has helped me was he made me realize how selfish I am with my energy. He made me realize how nonchalant, how selfish, how self-absorbed I can be. How I don't express my love enough. How I don't open people up into my world. How I don't open up to people. And I realized that recently, and I did a little shadow work on, like, my past relationships, and I'm like, that's true. I would say the only thing that made me realize that I am safe enough to alchemize that in the present with my significant other is the fact that, personally, I feel like he deserves to know what's going on in my world. I feel like he deserves to see me being vulnerable to him. Like, I personally feel like we pour into each other and we accept each other all the way. And honestly, that's something that I've always wanted, rather it been in connections, friendship-wise, romantically, business-wise, even, like, just take someone for who they are. Because when you're trying to force someone to be a certain way or whatever, it messes up the success and the achievement of that dynamic. You know what I'm saying? Let things flow naturally. So he really cut into my ass about being selfish with myself. I need to be more vulnerable and everything. And I'm not blaming anybody for that. I am willing to compromise. So here's the next thing here. I realized too that as a woman, transmuting a lot of sacral solar plexus codependencies for me personally had a lot to do with feeling ashamed for really focusing on my authentic desires, which means actually knowing when to be selfish at the right times. Because when you really desire to aspire to something in life or to achieve certain goals, you cannot make other people happy. Now, I know at a certain point, people like me and you used to be people pleasers. Like, we cared about other people's opinions. We always did things to be seen in a good light to other people, and we always were charismatic and stuff. But I personally grew out of the people pleasing thing, which brought another challenge of learning to hold the focus of my desires and to be okay with pursuing my desires and being confident in what I desire and not changing it up because of an outside influence or because of other people's opinions, experiences, and deep-seated fears. Like, I realized that a lot of my deep-seated fears were simply from empathizing with others, simply from feeling as though I had to be in this energy where, like, I could postpone myself and my happiness to see what other people would do. And I did that as well in past connections, which, like, really just, it's been a whole turning point for me in this energy recently. I'm like, wow. So I think the last thing here that I'm going to discuss that kind of wraps all of that up with, like, just ascending as a woman. I have finally forgiven myself as a woman for embodying true divinity, which means I am comfortable with being myself. I am comfortable with not explaining myself. I am comfortable with being misunderstood. I am comfortable with being the villain. I am comfortable with not being everybody's type. I am comfortable. I'm just so accepting of myself. I am okay with not always being the standard or even having to be the student to observe other people. I'm okay with that as a woman, because I feel like in femininity, women are always under this pressure of thinking that they have to rear themselves to the spotlight or something in anything that they've got going on, and it causes issues with being able to have healthy feminine connections or just a healthy form of feminine expression, period, which causes issues within femininity, period. You know, you become possessive, jealous, egotistical, and all these things, and think you have to tear other people down or, you know, checker your way to certain things to get over on things because you are in a limited survival perspective about your self-worth. And I kid you not, that is the greatest breakthrough I've ever had, even though I've never personally had to do that to anyone else. But just to acknowledge those feelings, to know that I'm not perfect, I'm okay with that. Like, totally okay with that. Okay, so this is how you properly read an egg cleanse. This is considered a web. Considering everything that I just said while doing this egg cleanse is everything that is reflecting here in this ritual here. Y'all know I do a lot of baneful magic as well as a lot of light magic, okay? I just do magic, period. Yes, that is my death unto enemies card, okay? But anywho, I wanted this one to be more focused on me. And so this web represents confusion, cloudiness, fogginess. These bubbles represent intentions. They could also represent spirits as well, or things that are being let go of, okay? And the egg within itself represents you. The water represents life. It also could represent meditation. It also could represent cleansing. You know what I'm saying? So that's more of a positive way to do an egg cleanse. I could teach y'all some bad shit all day long, but this is about me. So I will be putting this up under the eclipse here. And my idea with this is going to be to keep myself aligned and balanced. Okay?